Did they want to be on camera? Hell no. Did they want to do podcasts? Oh God, no. They were just here to write about video games. And I got there, this plucky young kid, I'm like, this is all I've ever wanted to do. And they were like, all right, do all this stuff. And so I got to sneak in and skip so many steps that you guys have to go through now, where rather than, I was talking about now, if kids come up to me, I want to do that, I want to work at IGN, I want to be like kind of funny one day, and I'm always like, you need to be doing it now. You need to be making vlogs, video reviews, podcasts with your friends. You need to be doing everything right now, not to get the views, not to get the subscribers, not to get any of that, but to get the experience. So that when you get contacted or IGN's hiring, you can hit these sites up and come in and be like, you can see how good I am because I've been on camera 50 times on this one kind of being on camera work, and I've done this a million times, and I have this many podcast episodes. Greg Miller started, and was just like, oh, yeah, it's good. I was breathing on the microphone, and there was nobody else to do it, so they didn't care. I got to make all the mistakes you should be making now in front of millions of people, and it was, a lot of people hated me, but a lot of people, it was this endearing story that I got there, and I was the first of the generation that grew up on this, and this is all we ever wanted to do. So I got there, and when I got there, I got to be the guy of, I am living your fantasy. You are, looking through my eyes, and I'm going to my first E3, and I'm on my first show, and da-da-da-da-da. And so, slowly but surely, I started to get this groundswell of support behind me. And it wasn't the support you see, like, this is a weird podcast, but we're all here, we're all at VidCon, so we're all weirdos anyway, right? Like, I'm a D-list internet celebrity. And so, like, when you guys know this well, when you watch The Rock in a movie or whatever, you're like, man, The Rock seems really funny, but you don't know what The Rock's really like. And The Rock's a bad example, because he's on Instagram all the time. His dog, Hobbs, is adorable. But you understand what I'm saying, when you see a celebrity up there, you don't know what they're really like. Whereas this kind of celebrity, and the kind of celebrity that brought us all to VidCon probably, right, is that you know everything about that person. So it was this weird thing of, I was living everybody's dream, and I'm talking about games, and I'll review Uncharted, and I'll do these different things, but then they were hearing about in podcasts my divorce, and then eventually my battle with cancer, and all these different things that I always said that if you're listening to these podcasts, you're one of my best friends. You know me better than my family does. And when I call my dad, it is a forced conversation of what the weather is like in Chicago and what the weather is like in San Francisco. And then he'll say, did you read the Daily Herald? And I'll go, no, Dad, I did not read the suburban Chicago newspaper every day anymore. Many time zones away, and I'm a busy man. So like people were getting in on me in a way that wasn't a thing back then, especially for IGN, but what it was for YouTube. And eventually, it got to this tipping point where, begrudgingly, I think, IGN had to accept that, well, God, Greg's like the most popular editor here. He's the face of the site, and that eventually parlayed into when YouTube, if you remember a few years ago, gave people money, like Geek and Sundry, to start these channels for longer form content. We wanted to go at it. IGN made one called Start, and I hosted a show called Up at Noon. And it really harkens back to me in this thing that I heard years prior and never thought much about. When I believe it was a Saturday Night Live thing, and I was talking to Dennis Miller about getting Weekend Update. And somebody said, it's all about to change for you. And he was like, well, what do you mean? I've been on this show for a while, I've been on sketches, and they're like, no, but now your name is out there. You're not a character, you're not that guy who does that really funny impression, you're going to be Dennis Miller, everyone's going to know you. And that was the same thing with Up at Noon, where I had been in the background for a long time. Like if you were a PlayStation dork like myself, you listened to Podcast Beyond. You understood that I was this thing and this cool personality, and you liked it, you read a review, you saw it, or you watched GameScoop TVs, and you saw me and Damon having fun, and you understood that. But suddenly I was in this polished premiere project from IGN that was on the cover every Monday, and it was bringing in real celebrity guests like Michael Madsen or Chris Jericho, and like it was something different, and all my name was attached to it. So all of a sudden, it went from I go to E3 and see friends to I go to E3 now, and everybody came up to me. It was like, everything you do is so awesome. I love this. I like what you're doing. You're changing. It was this interesting tipping point where I really went from being behind the scenes a big deal at IGN to now being in front of everybody as a big deal at IGN. And while all this is happening, I am getting older, and I've been at IGN a long time. When I leave IGN in January 2015, I've been there 8 years. So I get up at Noon 5 years in, and we did a bunch of pilots, and then we launched it in the new part of the year there, 2012. And a few months later, my friend Tim, who wasn't my friend then, but is now, of course, because we're married to each other in this company, came over with Fran, who was our boss, and was like, "We are going to send you guys to VidCon." And I said, "What the fuck is VidCon?" And they said, oh, it's like GDC, which is this game developers conference for YouTube creators. You go there and you go to panels and you learn from other people. And I went, that is stupid. I know YouTube. I have a show on YouTube every week. Are you kidding me? And they're like, well, at least you can go and you can meet people and get guests. And I'm like, that sounds like drinking. That sounds like fun. I'm in. And Colin, who's my roommate and my partner in a million other things, and partner in Kind of Funny, always says that I left the house, so like, oh, I gotta go on this trip. And then I came back in and I threw the door open and I was talking like I was an apostle with the Holy Ghost above my head. And I was like, you don't understand. This is what I've been looking for. We gotta go. Because for months I have been struggling with the fact that I wanted something of my own. IGN was awesome and continues to be awesome without me. I love the place. But it was that we would go there. Nick, why are you so late?
Are you seriously the only person on the panel?
I am. I've got him in the palm of my hand. He's going, I guess not. Sure. Tim, do you want to come up now? You can come up now too, Tim. Tim was respectable. He just said, we quit IGN. We are starting a second Patreon called Kind of Funny Games, because of course the agreement with IGN was, you guys can make YouTube videos, but you can't cover games. You're known for games, you're known for IGN, you can't go somewhere else and do that. So this was the switch of, all right, cool. We have a Patreon for Kind of Funny, Prime is what we call it now, where it's, okay, it's, the Game Over Greggy show, it's Oration, it's all these different things, it's now love and sex stuff, it's anything that's not video game related, and then Kind of Funny Games would be the other Patreon, and both would mirror each other, where early access to the shows, you get exclusive perks. If you go through on Patreon, there are reward tiers that we have set up from at $1, which is the entry level. You get in, you get an exclusive episode of the show every month that isn't posted anywhere else until we figure that out, which we're too busy to figure out. $5, you get early access to the MP3. $10, you get early access to the YouTube video. $15 gets you into, what is it now?
Q&A, monthly Q&A.
No, it's $20 now. There's something at 15, I forget. Then it keeps going up like that to where it's like, what is it? $50 gets you personalized fan mail every month. And then it's all the way up to $3,000 you can come be a guest on the show, and then $5,000 is a sponsorship of the show. Usually this is, somebody's making a game. Mike Biffle put out Volume. He sponsored us for a month, so we were like, hey, this is brought to you by Volume. It's only happened once where this kid bought it, and I was like, cool, what product or site do you want to promote? He's like, I don't know, my Twitter? You spent $5,000 for me to say your Twitter? All right, thanks, man. All right, cool. So we launched all that, and it was off to the races. Our best case scenario happened, where everybody was like, this is awesome, you're doing something amazing, we want to be part of it. And when we talk about it, we've talked a lot about it this week with other creators, like, the reason it works and what you need to go out and do with your audiences, right, is that it's authentic. We have never hid anything about what we do. To show how goofy we are, right? It's just like January 5th, we put IGN. We do this. We're now going to do a live show on Twitch every day called Colin and Greg Live, and it'll be on in 30 minutes. And we flipped the switch, and we were on in 30 minutes. And obviously, the lead story was everything that was happening. And in the chat on Twitch, somebody was like, "Okay, but what are your ethics?" And Colin and I looked at each other, and we're like, "We'll tell you everything. Like, if there's going to be a sponsorship, you will know that video is sponsored. And that's pretty much it. That's the one thing everybody's worried about, right? That I'm going to come out and be like, man, let me tell you about Hearthstone. I've never played a game like Hearthstone. Like, well, Greg, you hate mobile games. Like, shut up, don't say that. Just come out and we make fun of it. We're able to own that and be a part of it. And that was what drove people to support us and what continues to drive them to support us. And what I keep talking about is, we're lucky enough, and so with so many of you, if you go this route, is that people understand they're in the ground floor of something. They understand what they're doing. What I was describing with Patreon, right, when I tell the story or when I tell it to the kids or anything else, I'm talking about the fact that you guys have given us the seed money to do this. If it wasn't for Patreon, we maybe right now are trying to leave IGN, we're worrying about it, seeing how we do it, we squirrel away money, we're ready to eat ramen nonstop. Maybe we're looking for investors and we're going to be under with somebody's thumb and not be able to create the way we want to create. These people showed up and gave us the seed money to get out there and make whatever we wanted, to make mistakes, to make awesome content, to get out and having a great time. And you jump ahead a year and a half from our Independence Day, resurgence now in theaters, #ad. A year and a half from our Independence Day, right? And next month we're moving into a studio. Like, for a year and a half we worked in my spare bedroom. Colin and I's spare bedroom, and that's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard of. Somebody's giving you $50,000 a month for 3 guys to hang out in a spare bedroom and make content. But that's how awesome it is, and it's because once again, the audience in the way that they saw me at IGN as this bootstrapped, living the dream kid, they see it again. That I am this bootstrapped guy now trying to make a company that stands for something. That we are here to celebrate the things we love. We don't need to review everything. If you're going to come to us and you're going to get me talking about DC Comics and Tim talking about Pokemon and Nick talking about girl porn. Like, and that's the crazy era we live in. And this is what I was hinting on before, right? Is the fact that a lot of you don't know us, and that's awesome. That's so great, and I hope you give us a shot. If you don't, though, no big deal. But the takeaway I always talk about is the fact that right now, if you combined the two YouTube channels, right, we have 400,000 subscribers. But that means both channels are at about 200,000. So we probably have about 200,000 people who've subscribed to us on YouTube, period. Then you look at our views on our videos, average, median, you're talking 35,000 to 55,000, depending on the topic. We break up the show topic by topic. So if you're like, oh, they're talking about Star Fox, I don't care about Star Fox, you don't watch that topic that day, and obviously that dips. So right there we have 50,000 hardcore kids, we'll say, right? They're going to watch everything we do, care about everything we do. That's a great number too, but when you go to Patreon, that's when it gets crazy. We have 2 Patreons, like I said, kind of funny games. If you combine the Patreon totals, we have 14,000 people supporting us on Patreon. However, we did a survey when we first started, and so many people are doubling up. So honestly, we have 9,000, 10,000 fans giving us $50,000 a month. Like, that's insane, but that shows where we're at now. That the power of the internet and the power of these communities and these powers of these little niches we all get to go into is the fact that you don't need to have 300 million subscribers anymore to make this. You don't need to be PewDiePie. Holy fuck, I beat PewDiePie for 2 gaming awards this year. That's insane. How does that happen? You know what I mean?
I think he didn't know about one of them.
No, he didn't know about either of them. No, 100%. True story. For the first time ever, I saw Markiplier in person at VidCon, backstage. I went up like, hey, Markiplier, I'm Greg Miller. He's like, all right. And I'm like, oh, sorry, like, we've been nominated for a bunch of awards. He's like, what awards? I'm like, South by Southwest and Jeff Keighley's Game Awards. He's like, I didn't know. I'm like, well, that's probably why I won, but no big deal, thanks. But that's the point, and that's what you're talking about too, and the fact that Pewds and Mark are great dudes, right? And they have huge communities, but their communities are so big that it's hard to get them to move and act. Whereas with our community, we can be like, please go break this poll. Please go stuff this ballot box. And our guys are like, got it. And they go out and they make it happen for us. They make everything happen for us. And that, we talk about the crazy things that we do now. We just did this thing called Kind of Funny Live 2 last year. Last year we did Kind of Funny Live, which was like, we've been on our own 5 months, and we were like, one of the milestones we had put on our Patreon before we even left was like, we hit this tier, then we'll do this live event, and you guys can all come. And I think so many of our people thought it was going to be like the live events I did at IGN, which were basically this, where we would get a table, get a bar, and we'd do a podcast live. And this one, we had like 450 people come, and it was a stage show. We started with a presidential debate hosted by Troy Baker, who's a big video game actor. Then we did the podcast, then we Q&A, we did all these different things. We had polished packages Tim killed himself putting together. And so then for Kind of Funny Live 2 this year, we got the Regency Ballroom in San Francisco, which is a real place where Weezer has performed and bands that I don't care about. And then we packed that with what, 2,300 is the number?
It was 13.
1,300. Sorry, I've been lying to everyone at VidCon. 1,300 people. 1,300 people sold out, came to hang out with us and see us do this show. And we had this giant video wall, these amazing packages, and then we had the Kind of Funny logos on the wall that Nick made at my kitchen table. And then at the very end, Cisco came out and performed. And it's like, what is happening? But this is where we are now, where I know, and I know you guys know, that like, this being our 5th VidCon, like, what means so much to me right now, right, is the fact that my name is printed on the badge. This is my 5th VidCon, and it's the first one where I didn't have to write it on a Sharpie. And I'm not knocking that, because that's exactly what you guys did. And I'm not saying I'm better. I'm not, trust me. And, but it's like, that's one of those little check boxes, right, of moments in my life. Because I've been where you are in the panel, where it's like, God, we only have 75,000 subs. This is, like, nobody's going to take us seriously. We're going to quit our jobs and do all these things. It doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. And we're proof of that, and proof of that. So many of you don't even know who the hell I am, and you're here. That's proof it doesn't matter.
I still don't know anymore either. Yeah, it was an interesting time, and I think from your guys' perspective, I think it might be a little different than mine on it, because I was not necessarily for going out for Patreon, but I looked at it sort of like we weren't worthy, or we were begging the audience for money, right? I think that was the big thing. If you guys take away anything from here, first off, you guys should definitely go and check out our Patreons. Everything Greg just said, how we package it, and how we get it out to the audience, all listed there, so you guys can kind of see how we do that. It's at patreon.com/kindoffunny, patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. So it's good. It's very insightful. I have to look every week to remind myself of what we do. It's great. But yeah, from my perspective, I was like, I don't think we should be doing this, because there's this weird stigma about crowdfunding, right? Where you've seen people on Kickstarter or Indiegogo who crowdfund something and they never deliver, and people are like, oh, this is horrible, and stuff like that. And I'm like, I just don't want to do this. I don't want that to be what we stand for. And I think it was Tim that kind of put it best to me, where he was like, don't think of it as crowdfunding. Don't think of it as asking your crowd for money. Think of it as providing extra value to your audience and having that be a top dollar for that. Right? It's similar to how Netflix asks you for money every month, but they provide you with content that you like, right? And that is a big, big, big differentiator in your brain, right? Because at one point, you guys all walked in here thinking, how am I going to ask my audience for money? Don't think that way. Think, how am I going to provide value to my audience and make them want to pay more for my content, or pay for my content, period, right? And that's the difference between what Netflix does versus what you're expecting on YouTube. Raise your hand, how many people subscribe to Netflix right now? Exactly. So like, how many people go through Netflix every day and don't watch a single thing, just kind of blade through it over? Me too. But I still pay $14 a month for that, and I just, forgot to cancel it 18 months in a row.
It is though, Netflix provides a service, and people just think of it that way, and they're like, all right, I know what I'm going to get from that. And we had to kind of think about it, like, how can we create a service that people are going to want? And the beautiful thing about it is the internet, you can adapt, and you can change. So we've changed many, many times. We have a lot of iterations that the audience might not even know about, because it's little subtle things here and there. But when we look at our tier lists, and my favorite thing about Patreon, my favorite thing about VidCon, all this stuff,
the money,
is that sorry, to go back a second, I think the key thing that Nick missed there is that my point to them was, it's not about asking the audience for money, it's asking the audience for support. And that is the key difference, where it's the same thing, really, and all it comes down to is their money is the best way to show their support. Because money just shows, if you're getting money doing what you love, that just means you're on the right track. That just means that there's people out there that believe in what you're doing. And the only way they're going to believe in what you're doing is if you believe in what you're doing.
100%, yeah. You can't think of it as begging for money, because you're not. And if you are begging for money, you're doing it 100% wrong. You need to go out there and understand you're providing a service and a connection and something different.
And it's all about putting value to that, and the value will come from the audience. Is it ridiculous that we have a $3,000 tier for people to come on the show? Absolutely. But people will pay it because they find value in that. And guess what? That means it's worth it, because people are paying it. And there's been so many people that pay these things and they don't even really care. Like some of our $150 tiers, they'll pay the stuff, and we'll like hit them up and be like, hey, how do you want us to send you this thing? And they're like, oh, I just want to support it. And it's like, that is the type of spirit we need to embrace with all of it.
That's the biggest thing, is like, I think, so many people ask us, man, I'd like to start Patreon, but like, I'm just worried that like, I wouldn't get that many people, or this, that, or the other. It's like, why would you worry about that? If you're getting $5 a month from one person, great. You're getting $5 more than you were before making the content you love. It doesn't need to be a raging success. It doesn't need to be these things. And it's one of those, like, usually the numbers I've just run through in this episode, this panel, is, 400,000, 200,000, you're down to 9,000 people. Like, only 9,000 people of our audience are like, yeah, they're worth the dollar. I should give them some money. And that's great, that's fine, I don't care. The rest of it's free for everybody else eventually. I hope they enjoy the content and get it any way they can.
Yeah, I think that's the other key point, is we try to design all of our stuff so that it is free for everybody. The paid stuff is just if you want it early, if you want the support, to support us and help us. And I think that message is good, because then people want to help us get the content out to as many people as possible. We've done such a good job of doing content over the years. I've learned so much from you of how to do that. In the sense of, we get to be friends with people. We get to talk openly about everything. And when something's sponsored, there's no secrets. This is sponsored, but instead of the message being like, it's sponsored, but you don't need to worry, we're not trying to trick you. It's more like, we're sponsored. Isn't that cool? Someone's paying us to do this.
We fooled them all. When we launched Patreon, that was my big thing. Is I told people like, this isn't. Like, people are always like, oh, this is really cool, but you're gonna fail because like you're putting all your revenue in one thing. I'm like, no, we're not. No. We're really trying to sell ads in this shit too. Don't get me wrong. Like I don't want it because the thing that breaks my heart all the time is when I'll get a message on Patreon and it's some Patreon supporter saying, I have to stop supporting at this tier. My mom's sick. I just lost my job. I can't support you at all. I'm like, dude, you have no reason to apologize. It's awesome you think like you value this relationship so much in that way, but you don't have to do that. That's not what this is about. Gentleman in the back's had a question, and we want this to be a discussion, so go ahead.
Yes, sir. I should have been in that small crowd over there, so I apologize for the question. How do you, on your videos, do you actually ask for support, or is there integration with YouTube and such that I'm not aware of?
We ask for the support. Both podcasts, so this is inside baseball if you don't understand the content, but both of the flagship podcasts, the one for the games and one for the just kind of funny, both intro and outro the show saying how this runs. So just like, if you like what you see, go over to patreon.com/kindoffunny. You get the episodes early along with a bunch of exclusive perks. If you have somebody to toss away. If you don't, it goes up topic by topic, day by day, Monday through Friday on youtube.com/kindoffunny. So
everyone has access to your videos, free and not.
The only one would be the exclusive episode we put up on Patreon every month at $1 and above tier. But every other episode, eventually goes free. We just window the content. So the idea is that every Friday, the episode that will roll out piece by piece on YouTube the next week goes live in full for the Patreon supporters.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's a key piece of information right there, right? That's a strategy that takes a little bit to wrap your head around it, and kudos to Tim, right, for really kind of coming up with that. Most of the time, he's like an evil genius when it comes to strategy. Evil's a bad word. Middle of the road, morality-wise, genius. But like the idea that you are creating that sort of exclusivity window is very, very important to this, right? It's key to this of saying we're going to give you a little something extra and you're going to give it a little earlier than everyone else, because if people, at the end of the day, you're out there to build an awesome community and people are there to support you, but they're also there to consume your content. And if they consume your content at the rate with which you would like them to, they are going to eventually catch up. And then they are going to want extra. And then they're going to want it earlier. And they're going to want to do all these things because it's fun, because we're here at the end of the day to entertain people. And so once we started doing that, people were like, oh, this is cool. I get extra stuff. I get it earlier than everyone.